Good evening, everyone. Sorry for this delay. I thought another member was gonna be here. I had to pick it up for practice, so. He's on his way, but I'm here, so we do have a quorum, so we can start anyway. So I guess we will start. No, this one. Oh, yeah, 2374, that's a 2-lot subdivision, Wolcott, am I pronouncing that correctly? Wolcott. We're starting at 6:15. So the first thing you're gonna do is swear anyone in that plans on testifying or speaking. Okay, so I'll read, I'll swear you in and then you can just agree. So, do you swear that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. We got 2, 3. Okay.
You want to check on that too?
Oh, sorry. Anyone online planning to provide any testimony?
My name is Doug Sandvig, and I have submitted a letter to the Development Review Board. And I would just ask that either that letter be read or included as part of the minutes in the record of the meeting.
Okay, well, I guess if you just agree that you're sworn in and if you do have some reason to speak, we've got to take care of it.
That's acceptable.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Jason Livornia. I've done the same thing.
Thank you, Jason.
And I accept.
I guess that's it. I see one, Phil. No testifying?
No, I don't plan to testify. I'm here as an observer.
Okay, thank you.
For 6:15.
All right, thank you. All right, so application, 9 acres that exist on the right side of roads. East side, right? Subdivision map included, previously surveyed from the 37 total. 1 lots total, 28 and 9. I just don't understand that part.
That's what's left. There's a 28-acre lot left.
In a 9-acre, okay, the original 37. So it was already subdivided and this is the subdivision of.
So how it worked was, I'm here for somebody else who will speak on. Yeah, this is how it worked is the land was bought as a separate parcel on the right-hand, on the east side of the road. So it had the land. It was a survey parcel on the east side.
Yeah.
And then she's dividing it again because in Wolcott, the road or whatever doesn't, it's joined, however it's joined, so it needs to be divided again, so she could sell the land on the west side and keep the property on the east side.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but if she bought that separately, it's still separate lots, are they not?
Yeah, this is the first I've heard of this.
So no boundary line adjustment.
Well, and she didn't buy a separate, in the past, it came from a separate.
It doesn't,
lot.
so it doesn't really matter.
Well,
As they were separated in the past.
it becomes a tough challenge on how it was, because it went out in the deed and then it came back and then it went out again, so. That's kind of why we're here, is to maybe answer that question of the solution. And wastewater wise, if the state does recognize the road as an actual subdivision, so it's exempt, it's not exempt from needing to be built something, it's exempt from needing a subdivision permit with the state.
So stand, no, there's crossroad right there. Okay, so the 9 acres is the one on the east side of the road.
Yes.
Where the water is, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Bruce, you want to see? Thanks. Yes, that's. All right, so I guess maybe I'll start by reading the 2 letters and then we can talk about. So this letter is from Douglas Sandvig, March 14th, 2023, regarding application 22374S. It says to the DRB, I am an owner of the lot immediately adjacent to which the lot is the subject of this application. I request that this letter be included in the record of proceedings for the hearing on March 23rd, 2023. I reviewed the application, which includes a 2014 forest standing plan. Map does not reflect 2 additional mobile homes placed on the lot. There are now 3 mobile homes placed on the lot, which would constitute an unpermitted mobile home park, section 5.05 of the zoning regulations. These would be non-conforming structures and a non-conforming use of the property. It is my understanding that the 3 mobile homes have been condemned or were condemned at some point and are not occupied. Calling these unoccupied mobile homes storage facilities seems to be contrary to the junk ordinance and not in keeping with the intent of the zoning and development regulations. Section 5.05 does not require the mobile homes to be occupied. As such, it would be a violation and should not be allowed to continue. There is a 15-year period to enforce such violations, section 2.05.6, which are within that, we are within that time period. It is not the division of the lots that is problematic. The non-conforming structures and use with 3 mobile homes is the issue. The development review process allows non-conforming conditions to be brought into compliance. If the application is withdrawn or dismissed, enforcement of the violation is not only permitted, it is required. Douglas, did I get that right?
That's correct. There's a second page as part of the letter.
You know, when I read it, I wondered, because Tom sent this in an email. I wondered if there was a second page, because it seemed like it ended abruptly, but. Oh, okay. Here we go. It is my understanding that the DRB has the authority to place conditions on the approval or development plan to subdivide the lots and to set a time limit for compliance. As part of the subdividing process, I asked that, number 1, the 2 mobile homes do not appear on the map to be removed. Oh, the 2 mobile homes that do not appear on the map be removed. Number 2, the mobile home that does appear either be removed or be made habitable with proper septic and water supply. 3, that these tasks be completed prior to subdividing. And number 4, that if these tasks are not completed or if the application is withdrawn or denied, that enforcement for non-conforming structures or uses be promptly initiated. I will not be able to attend in person, but I intend to participate by Zoom. Yours truly, Douglas Sandvig. Here we go. Douglas, would you like to add anything?
No, I think that fairly summarizes what I have to say on this.
Okay. I'll read the second letter. This is March 16th, 2023 from Jason Lavorna. Sarah Ouellette has a septic system on my property. I think Peter's. It says Swartz. Okay, this is different. Okay. Peter Swartz installed it in 2005 without my permission. I've installed a new water well within 100 feet of where the dilapidated trailers are, and I am afraid of contamination of my well. When Sarah rented out the 3 trailers, the tenant piled up her garbage, burnt some of the garbage, rats came, and I had to stop raising my chickens because of the rat problem. When Ed Ledoux was forcibly removed from his home, he spent a few nights in Sarah's trailer, leaving behind lots and lots of trash on my property. Sarah never returns my phone calls about cleaning up the property. Prior to granting her any approval for subdividing, I would like her to remove the 3 trailers, clean up the mess, and if adding any new trailers, install them away from my property at the other end of her property line. I'm opposed to the subdivision, especially if approval is done prior to a full cleanup and the trailers removed. Very truly yours, Jason Lavorna. Jason, would you like to add anything?
No, that's basically all I have to say. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, so I guess I would open up the floor for anybody else that would like to make any comments now before we kind of get down to going through subdivision review. Mr. Collins.
The issue of these trailers, mobile homes, whatever you call them, is not a new issue. I brought it to the zoning administrator's attention. on April the 26th, 2021. I was told to relax and don't act like the sky was falling, that it would be addressed. It's never been addressed. I feel for Sarah because somehow she made a mistake or a poor decision, in my judgment, in putting these mobile homes there to begin with. One had to be even moved out of the town's right of way. But I also am really upset and have been upset, and as a past member of where you sit, that this has never really been addressed by the town. And we're here tonight, in a sense, neighbor versus neighbors, which is a crop because the town didn't do what it should have done nearly 3 years ago. Thank you.
I guess quickly, I know, Bill, well, I guess we didn't actually discuss it, but, we exchanged some letters previously. And, I think, as far as I understand, the development review board or the planning commission were one combined body now, have no regulation or regulatory, jurisdiction. It's the select board and the zoning administrator. And
That's correct.
unfortunately, yeah, from our position, I understand your frustration. I also, I guess, wonder why, things weren't pursued, and I don't have any explanation as to why they were not.
Well, they were pursued. I have a lot of emails to show that pursued, but that's not the point. And I wasn't saying that to be critical to DRB. But this is before the DRB now. And you have the opportunity to rectify it by, as Mr. Sandvik said, if you approve this, putting conditions on the approval. What we want as neighbors is those mobile homes removed. And Tom, as zoning administrator, should have been on this by your own regulations, the zoning regulations, nearly 3 years ago. But instead, the town assessed them, never permitted them, but assessed them and put them on the tax rolls. That was the penalty. That's not the penalty that's called for in the zoning regulations. And all I'm doing is telling you this for the record tonight, that you review subdivision regulations for conditional use. You also sit as the Board of Appeals for any decision the zoning administrator may make that somebody doesn't like. This is for your information now in the open, in the public. I hope that at some point in time, this town, the zoning administrator, and the ordinance, whoever enforces the ordinances in this town, will start taking what's on paper and required seriously. Because if you read page 15 and 16 of the zoning regulations, it doesn't say you may. It says you shall enforce the regulations.
2.05.
Page 15 and 16, I don't remember.
Yeah, I think. I just want to take a look at it. You're talking about just violation and enforcement.
But I feel that's water over the bridge right now. The issue is the subdivision. That's what you've got to address. And you've got to address the concerns of the neighbors in the process.
All right, so while we're on the topic of violation, I am looking at formal notice of violation. The zoning administrator is required by law to enforce all violations. Go through direct observation, written or oral complaint, site visit notification, et cetera. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Have you received any notice of violation?
Tom expressed to me that the trailers were not, yes. I have received it from Tom, that is correct.
So you sent a formal notice of violation, Tom? Okay.
So what was the use of the trailers?
Well, originally, I don't know, the existing yellow trailer was on the property and being used when we purchased the property, and it was livable to a certain point for quite a long time. And the other trailers, I brought.
For the purpose of habitation or for some other?
It's in the past of who knows what we were thinking, my husband and myself and all of that. So I think initially, yes, I was thinking habitation, but I didn't realize at the time what state of awfulness they were in. So yes, it's a bit of a mess.
Is it something that you still have plans for, or you just?
No, I
Sure, how to
am
get
planning on, once the monetary funds become available, getting all three of them removed. But it is kind of not a, from what I have done with the quotes, it's not exactly a inexpensive thing, so.
So you're saying you have to pay to have them removed. They're not in the condition where somebody can take them for free and try to refund.
Right. There may be one at the property that could be, but you know, I don't know if I even want to deal with that for somebody else to, I don't know. I feel like they just need to not be there, but so that's my plan is to subdivide the property, sell the house and 28 acres and keep the other side of the road, which is the 9 acres, get the trailers out of there and make a lot for myself with the barn. It was a property that my dad kind of helped me get, and I still love the property, and so. But monetarily right now, I do not have the cash to remove them ASAP or my plan was to say that after the closing on the house in 90 days, they would be removed. And we could put that in conjunction with this subdivision if he let it go through.
Is the main house currently on the market?
Yes.
Do you have offers on it? Is it under contract at this moment?
It is under contract, but this is kind of all hinging on a lot of things, and I have a lot of balls in the air right now. So I'm trying to, shall we say, kind of land gracefully.
So for the purposes in relation to the real estate listing for the house, is it the house and the 37 acres that we see in total?
There are two listings, but there's one for half of the acreage with the 9 acres excluded, and there is one for the whole listing. They're listing it in 2 different ways.
So one for the house and a potential total acreage
Of 28.
depending on this subdivision, and then there's a separate listing that contains this 9 acres.
In the total amount, yes, we listed it 2 ways.
It's a separate, it's the 37 total, right? So
Right,
one listing's 37, one listing's 28.
correct.
It sounds like a reasonable idea. My only concern is that in order for the subdivision, in order for the subdivision to be, I guess it could be conditionally approved. But before the subdivision is approved, meaning contingent upon removal of the mobile homes, you can't really sell a subdivided lot without the subdivision. You see what I'm saying?
Right,
It's kind
I
of-
know, I'm in a bit of a
Yeah,
catch-22
Yeah,
here.
that's what I was trying to lay it out.
and I don't know exactly how.
So let's making a need for us to start stepping into. You know, you can take these things off your property. One person's mobile, or I should say trailer, home, house can be a shed. Just as much as I can build a garage, and until I hook it up to septic and water and living in it, it's not a home. I think that's kind of where we've been looking at this, and I think we ought to kind of stay with it.
Is there a storage issue? If it's not a home, then there isn't a wastewater issue.
So the only one of those trailers that is hooked up to anything is that one that's closest to the property line. Has been for 20 or more years.
Okay,
When's the last time somebody did taking trip?
oh God. 2 to 3 years ago, I think.
So is the house that's currently listed your current residence?
Correct.
So just for the record. If I go out and buy a mobile home and drop it on the front of my property. And don't permit. That's okay.
Well, if you don't permit it, it better be agricultural. I'm not saying it's okay not to permit it. Just like if I build a garage or a shed that's over 150 square feet, I have to permit it, but it doesn't make it.
Well, just for the record, I don't agree.
No, I understand that.
Yeah. I don't know, what our definitions. I don't know if they're that specific on what a storage unit. Even, Tom, can you comment on that? Like,
Well, for the record, 2 of those mobile homes are permitted. One of them, she got talked into having dumped on her property. Of course, she hasn't done anything with the second permit.
What is that permit for? Was that?
She was gonna do some kind of a homestead or something like that. We were gonna do in the one that's closest to the road.
Okay.
When she got talked into it, she said, "No, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it." And then she said, "Well, I don't want to do it
Yeah, anything over what, 100 or 150 square feet, you just get like a building permit, right?
Yeah.
Do they all have building permits? Well, I guess the first, the one that was lived in probably wouldn't, because that's been there for a long time.
I did apply for 2 permits, but the second one we said we had to discuss because you, you kind of, yeah. So one of them is permitted, but the other one I don't think is the third one, Tom?
One of them.
No, okay.
May I weigh in on this for a moment?
Sure, who's speaking?
This is Doug Sandvik.
Okay, thank you.
And again, with the zoning regulations in 5.05, if there's 3 mobile homes on the unit, they have to be permitted as a mobile home park. There are 3 mobile homes there, and they're not permitted. And so it's a non-conforming structure or use. And if one was permitted, and then at some point, maybe another one was, I think at some point in the timeline of this, they became condemned as not habitable. In any event, as they exist right now, it is clearly a non-conforming structure and use. And I'm just requesting that that be cleared up as part of this zoning process. And if at some point it becomes clear, because it does take some money to get those mobile homes off, you've got to go through some environmental studies and things like that. If as Sarah mentioned, she's got a lot of plates in the air, if they all come crashing down, at some point we still need to get the mobile home issue addressed. And the zoning and subdividing process here is an opportunity to make that happen. And I just hope this opportunity is not wasted. Thank you.
Just trying to look up 5.05 here.
I might add while you're looking at that, it doesn't make any requirement that the mobile homes actually be occupied or used as homes. And
Yeah,
so the issue is still there. If you call them, well, they're not being used as home, they're being used as storage units. It still has to go through the mobile home approval process. It's not contingent upon its actual use as a mobile home.
so I guess the question is, are they mobile homes, or are they storage units?
They're all mobile homes, and I don't think they've been occupied as residences for really quite some time.
Is that you can subdivide the property now, nothing but the.
Well, if they're mobile homes, then this is applicable. If they're not, I mean, the reason I also ask, because, you know, people convert shipping containers into residences, which is the opposite. So, you know,
They use school buses for storage. So
If we're trying to come up with a definition of what a habitable structure is, like you could build you could build a shed, and yeah, you could live in it, but a mobile home would contain infrastructure within an envelope that's much different than a shed, meaning electrical, plumbing. It might not be connected to the utilities or a system, but the contents within the envelope are, you know.
But in state, the wastewater rules, the state consider anything that has more than a sink. right, to be a home. And if it's connected like, an ordinance regulation a couple of years ago on property. And it's because it was a rustic camp, but they had a shower. That took the rustic word out of it once it had a shower. And it was all, of course, connected and stuff like that. But even if they just had it going into a tank, it still had a shower and stuff.
Can I ask you a question? Is the issue where they're trying to divide a piece of land off that has some zoning regulation problems? So this piece is 28 acres. Does the subdivision care that it may have some trailers or this or that, some existing problems of some sort? Or is it just a subdivision of that piece of land? And does it meet the other subdivision requirements? But why do we focus on the trailers except maybe to cause them to be removed by something we decide?
Basically, they're trying to enforce the junk ordinance through the DRB process.
To combine enforcement of the zoning ordinances with a subdivision.
In the junk ordinance, does it read that that's an avenue for enforcement? I've never read the ordinance.
2 or 3 years ago, this was referred to the junk ordinance committee as well, and we were told that this wasn't applicable to them. We asked for a question, and I'm not trying to be snarky or anything like that, because like I said, this really is not something neighbors like to do. How many of you seen what we're talking about? How many of you taken the time to ride by and see what Sarah's proposing and what we're talking about? Raise your hand.
I run by there all the time.
Yeah, I've seen it.
We can argue about what wasn't. The issue that I think Doug, myself, Jason, bring before you tonight is, and our concern is if this is subdivided, and we understand Sarah's got to do this to get the money to clean it up. We want it cleaned up. We want some assurance it gets cleaned up. We don't want it to turn into another issue like we've had all too many on East Hill already. And we firmly believe, and I agree with Doug, that this should have been reviewed at the get-go as an illegal mobile home park. That the regulations that you all sit to enforce should be safe. I said that to Tom at the time. I said it to you at the time, Maxwell. I said it to you at the time, Jim. Maxwell, you agreed with me. Jim, you did. And that's fine, I'm not trying to read that back to history. I'm just saying that here we are. You approve this, no conditions, and we're still looking at the same thing that we've been looking at since late 2021. And I know you can put conditions on approval for a subdivision. So I would hope that as you review the subdivision, you have the proper survey in hand to look at it as a subdivision, showing all the elements on both properties that are needed for you to review this as a 2-lot subdivision. I hope you have it.
So your problem here though, Bill, is they're saying she doesn't have the money to remove these trailers till after she sells the house on 28 acres. If we put a condition on it that she moves the trailers before the subdivision goes through, like Maxfield was saying, who's gonna pay for that? She doesn't have the money.
Well, Jim, again, we wouldn't be in this position if this had been addressed the way it should have been addressed some years ago. Doug has made you, Doug Sandvik has made you, given you a letter, his opinion. I understand where Sarah's coming from. I understand Sarah's problem. But I want that cleaned up. So you got two choices. You either say clean it up ahead of time, or if you approve the subdivision, you put conditions on it like 30, 60 days, 90 days, that it get cleaned up. Those are the two things you look at. And
You want to address the issue of the water. So, something's on his property.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna come to that. I'm trying to look in the definitions here to see if there's anything more specific about mobile homes. I see existing manufactured home park or subdivision. Yeah, that's not, that's more of like infrastructure. Yeah, I'm having a lot of difficulty with the definitions part because, you know, the difference between a mobile home and a storage unit are really difficult. Obviously, if, you know, they were hooked up to services, right, you had power and water and septic, I think it would be easy to argue that they were mobile homes. Right now, they're kind of in the gray area, I guess, that is outside of, you know, any of these definitions.
I believe that this home park here is pretty well specific to something that's set up as a mobile home park, people living in mobile homes, hooked to something in water.
Okay, well, here we go. Manufactured home, a structure transportable in one or more sections, which is built on a permanent chassis and is designed for use with or without a permanent foundation, or connected to the required utilities. For flood insurance purposes and other purposes, if these violates the term manufactured home does not include recreational vehicles, park trailers, travel trailers, and other similar vehicles.
It still doesn't. So the definition.
Let's set a connector.
Did say.
So, yes, it's weird the way it's worded. So it says it, transportable and built on a permanent chassis and is designed for use with or without a permanent foundation when connected to the required utilities. That just says, it talks about the design of it. And saying, you know, you may or may not have a connected piece. Oh boy, there's another one. Mobile home means a prefabricated dwelling unit which is designed for long-term and continuous residential occupancy, is designed to be moved on wheels as a whole or in sections. On arrival at the site is complete and ready for occupancy except for incidental unpacking, assembly, connections with utilities, and placing on support or a permanent foundation or installation as a unit within a previously prepared structure. And finally, meets all other criteria and standards established by rule of the agency for distinguishing mobile homes from other types of residential units. The one that jumps out at me here is the first one. It's designed for long-term continuous residential occupancy. I guess it's designed for it. I wouldn't say it's capable of that. You said they're uninhabitable.
Yeah, they're gonna need they're gonna need fixer upper, or they're gonna need like be put in the trash.
Maxfield, are we asking, is it a mobile home park? It's obviously not a mobile.
Well, I guess the first question is, are they mobile homes? And then we can move on to mobile home park.
Okay,
we're kind of stuck in the middle here of this storage unit thing, because they're not really habitable. They were mobile homes, but you know, they're not hooked up to services. And by these definitions, you're not getting a lot of help.
So if they were mobile homes, would we as an organization have a right to say, no, we can't subdivide this because of this particular situation?
Yes, because it's an unpermitted mobile.
May I
Well, it's not a
speak on this?
mobile park, we said.
May I speak on this just for a moment?
Sure.
Doug Sandvig again. It seems to me that you're conflating the issue of a structure and a use. And the structures are clearly mobile homes, that they might be used for storage purposes because they've fallen into disrepair or are not habitable, still doesn't change that as structures. And if you look at them, you won't have any trouble recognizing that these are mobile homes. And that it starts being used in some capacity other than as a mobile home doesn't get out of the problem that it's a non-conforming structure. And so you're authorized to enforce that or make that a condition of enforcement, regardless of how it's currently being used.
If I park a school bus in my field, but I use it to keep hogs in, is it a shed or a school bus?
So that depends on actually registration and inspection.
Registered, uninspected.
Right, so now it's not a school bus.
Just comment that these units aren't mobile and they certainly aren't a home. So if we have some kind of a succinct definition that we can say, you know, these are or are not.
Yeah, the storage shed.
The problem is, this definitions keeps saying designed for long-term residential, designed to be moved. I mean, I guess they were designed for that. I mean,
Again, in the wastewater world, once it's like a camper, so somebody can have a camper on a lot. And the rules is sure they can connect it to a septic system or whatever they wanted to. But if they don't have a permit for that, they can use a storage tank or whatever, as long as the camper doesn't ever have skirting. It's currently registered and inspected. That means they can take the camper off the site to potentially empty the wastewater tanks and fill up the water tanks and stuff. So the camper's still a camper at that point, but are these trailers still able to be moved? Right, anymore as a mobile home, where they're gonna just disintegrate on the road, if somebody tried to tow them down the road. So does that mean it's over 150 square feet as a storage unit? And then maybe that's where it might apply. There might be a permanent one. But is it still a mobile home if it's not habitable as a mobile? Or even mobile? I mean, right, you just said in your rules that somebody could park a travel trailer or whatever on the property, it's not considered a mobile home. Right, and somebody could say, well, these are still mobile. But I don't think what they are. Once they're not mobile anymore, either they're connected permanently to something or they put something around it or whatever, then it stops being considered mobile.
I think you're mistaken in the sense that you're changing the structure classification based on the use. And those are two independent alternative means where compliance with both is required under the zoning and development rules. It has to be both proper as a structure and proper as a use. And you can't put mobile homes, 3 mobile homes on a lot and say, well, we're using them as storage facilities. We don't have to comply with the mobile home park rules. If those structures are mobile homes, and I don't think anybody would claim this is a close call, we don't know what they are. These are mobile homes. I mean, you can go there and look at them, and you can tell right away, that's a mobile home. They're non-conforming structures.
Douglas, what would you say the difference would be between 3 shipping containers and 3 mobile homes?
I think some of it is, these as mobile homes were designed to be occupied for dwelling purposes. At one point, these 3 mobile homes were new structures. They were all designed to be occupied for a dwelling purpose. If you put a shipping container out there and convert it into a home, somehow the nature of the structure has changed. And that when you build out a shipping container into a home, you've suddenly designed that for a dwelling purpose. And so in that process, the quality of the structure has changed its character.
So I was referring to as far as the envelope of the units on the property. The shipping container is made of metal, one component. These current structures have glass, asphalt roofing, maybe wood frame to them, a metal subframe, vinyl clad siding. There's a long list of different types of materials within, wall to wall on these. So it's more of a statement, I guess, not necessarily, I guess, in my opinion, supports the potential definition of not a storage unit. But rent a storage unit out at DeMars or something, generally that storage unit is made of steel, has a steel door, you might have a concrete slab, but the mix of materials for storage versus habitation is much different. If you build a shed, primarily it's probably mostly wood with a metal or asphalt clad roof. Maybe there's a window in it, and as with a garage, but I guess.
Excuse me, Max, it seems to me we're kind of off the subject a bit. That isn't that just an issue? Sorry?
I've got something to say.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Storage units, people don't live in storage units, right?
No, yeah.
Homeless people aren't allowed to stay in storage units.
I think you're talking about a multi-story, I'm talking about shipping containers.
Right, but I'm saying these trailers were lived in by people. Homeless people moved in last year, left a bunch of junk over there. That doesn't sound like a storage trailer to me.
So I would ask, are we talking about if a subdivision must have this? Talking about trailers or mobile homes, would we just a subdivision with conditions perhaps? So where are we on the subdivision part if we didn't need, if there wasn't a desire for other conditions? For zoning rules.
Best of my knowledge, we'd be reviewing the criteria.
So I guess my question is, should we decide on the subdivision and then decide whether there are conditions?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get the sense that there's sort of some agreement here on you don't want to keep the trailers.
Why do not?
So,
Yeah.
So it sounds like everybody sort of agrees on it. It's just a matter of like the details on like how they go away and when they. So
As a requirement for the subdivision.
if that is, yeah, part of the, just because of the part where it's not really a subdivision, if it's a conditional part of the subdivision that they're removed, then the subdivision is legal until they're removed, but she's saying she doesn't want the money.
Right, you could make it conditional, but Could you do it without making it conditional, if you didn't have an issue with what was on the property?
Or it could be, post sale within, like you said, within X amount of days of closing. I don't know if that's, you know,
You keep wanting to put in conditions, but should we deal with it as a subdivision? Or do we need to legally deal with it as a subdivision and with respect to what's on the property?
I think that part's still open for debate because, I think it's still indeterminate whether, you know, these things are storage units or mobile homes. I think there's a lot of back and forth and everybody's made a lot of good points, but I haven't heard anything definitive.
And I don't understand if they weren't one or the other, what would be different?
If they're mobile homes, then it's in violation of the mobile home park. And so that,
And therefore you couldn't subdivide.
not until that's rectified.
May I ask a question?
Question.
Is there anybody who's taking the position that these are not mobile homes?
Hey. They will
Who
never
is-
be a livable mobile home. Okay.
Who is that? Who is,
It's Tom
Tom Martin, zoning administrator.
okay,
Thanks.
Beginning when you asked Sarah why the trailers were dropped there, when her intent was misunderstood her. To use these as dwellings to be habited by people, so that would make them mobile homes when they were dropped there. When did that status change to storage?
Again, there's, you know, like I could put a mobile home on my property and live in it for 3 months and then decide I want to use it for storage. And I suppose at that moment it would be.
To qualify as a park, do they have to be livable?
And hooked up the water, electric.
That's the part where,
But the common sense view of that, in my opinion, is yes, they would have to be,
Yeah.
they would look like a mobile home park and not be a mobile home parked on somebody's property.
I'll read you the definition. Okay, here, mobile home park means any parcel of land under single or common ownership or control which contains or is designed, laid out or adapted to accommodate more than 2 mobile homes. Nothing herein shall be construed to apply to premises used solely for storage or display of mobile homes. Mobile home parks do not mean any parcel of land under the ownership of an agricultural employer who may provide up to 4 mobile homes used by full-time workers or employees of ag employer as a benefit of conditional employment, or any parcel of land used solely on a seasonal basis for vacation or recreational.
The way these mobile homes are just set there, at least the 2 of them, they're just pulled in, they're not set up, they're not level. They're just being stored.
They're gutted. Pretty much.
So they were dropped there for the purpose of storage then?
Regardless of what the purpose is, they're not a mobile home park.
No, not the way I'm reading this.
As far as, you know, what Sarah is doing with those, that's not up to us to regulate.
It would be different if she was renting those out and people were living there.
Oh, yeah.
Even if they weren't connected and didn't have all the utilities, that would be different. The intent was to do something within a later date, which that rule just said that they're parked there like for sale or I guess you would talk temporary use or whatever, you know, because Ken Harvey can park 10 trailers in the parking lot if he owns a piece of land up here and he doesn't get busted as a mobile home park. Because the intent is not to ever have him live in one of them is different, right? We understand.
Yeah, it says designed, laid out, or adapted to accommodate the mobile homes.
I just think that maybe circle back to what, and kind of what you touched on, Bruce, is like, you know, what we're here for a subdivision application and decisions and or potential contingencies that come along with that. And then if said potential contingencies are attached to a conditional approval upon sale, 30 days, 60 days, whatever that statement might be. If it's not complied with, how is it enforceable? And is there, because it, like Max said, it sounds like everybody's on the same page. It sounds like neighbors want to help neighbors collectively, which sounds like a win overall, but how to get to that end result is very tricky. And so just one second, is there any course through like the contract sale of the house? So if I buy a house and I negotiate with the seller that the seller's gonna pay my closing costs, is there a way to navigate your contract so that the funds, I almost wanna like find a way so that the funds from the potential sale are guaranteed to be allocated to clean this up or dispose of it. So whatever it is, if it's $10,000 for somebody to come with a dump truck and an excavator and a roll-off container to, get all this out. Which
Chad, that's not the business of this organization at all.
well, that's what I'm
It shouldn't be the business of this organization.
it's not my business to figure out.
I know everybody wants to help everybody, but really, why are we talking about those private kind of things?
Well, because I'm not trying to understand, we have one neighbor who's concerned about his water quality.
Right.
And so.
Is it a zoning issue? Can it be remedied in the zoning context?
Yeah.
Then let's remedy it in the zoning context and separate the
It's like a bigger subdivisions you're having in your neighborhood, it's not. I mean, I don't know why we're discussing this right now. Pretty simple.
Did you have something else, Bill?
Yeah, I think Bruce hit on it a few minutes ago. And we have all gotten this, I think, extensive talk about mobile home parking. Whether it is or isn't, or it. And I think the fundamental question before you should be one, do you have the necessary paperwork to review and approve a 2-lot subdivision? Period. One. And I think that's what you need to look at. 2, you know what the concerns of the neighbors are. You know what Sarah has said she's willing to do. So if you approve it, then you put additional. The neighbors' concerns get addressed, as well as Sarah.
All right,
We'll just agree to disagree on what's a new park and all that.
so before we go through the review, Jason LaHorna,
Yes,
I want to make sure that we address your concern with the water, the septic here. This could cause some concern if, in fact, their septic system is on your property in terms of the property sale. First,
right now I was told this and it's under the ground, so it's obviously not visible. My guess it's some big old trash can or something, because I'm sure it's not legal.
So you think it's there to be down on your property?
well, the septic's gonna be on this, on the Mylar anyway, so.
And there's
It's not
probably
on-
no leach field for it, so if it's leaching down the hill.
So she doesn't actually have to have a septic.
If you're not gonna use it, it's not there.
If the trailers get cleaned up and it's not gonna be used, I mean, that's fine, but if, there's gonna be another dwelling built, I mean, that's not a usable septic system.
So we changed the rules that, that land could be subdivided for any purpose, didn't have to be for residential.
A building permit would be contingent upon the septic system. And water source.
All right, so yeah, let's go through the review here. So we need a map, prepared by a registered land surveyor, registered civil engineer, registered architect. This is, I'm assuming this is the one that we're gonna.
So that's on the previous time it was subdivided off. Again, that was surveyed off a long time ago. Not subdivided because of the timeline, we're stuck on when the rules started in Wolcott for that. So, but that was previously surveyed. And the state rules in Vermont is if you have 10,000 acres, you don't have to survey 10,000 acres to break off an acre, you just have to survey off a portion of your breaking off. And that was surveyed many years ago like this. Yeah.
Didn't the subdivision rules start in 96? Didn't the subdivision rules start in 96?
That sounds about right. I got to look. Would you be able to say that?
Yeah, when they were.
I think I am wrong. Adopted 1988.
Oh, that was the first.
Yeah, okay.
So this 9.5 acres is the, where the barn is and the trailers.
So the forest management map they have actually shows better.
Shows on it.
Shows the house and the barn.
So we have run into this before when somebody had like a 100-acre parcel and they were subdividing off 2 acres. They didn't map the entire 100 or resurvey the entire 100-acre parcel, they just surveyed 2 acres. This one's slightly different in that it's not a small. I guess what are we looking at here? Are we looking at the 9 acres or the 30? What is it, 20, 27, 29?
It's 28.
28.
28 on one side of the road, 9 on the other.
So
37. Right.
I guess what I'm asking is, do we need, a survey of both of them or just the 9 acre?
So my position on that is because one of those lots is all on one side of the road. I would say that.
So we're looking for the 9 acre survey.
It comes down to, I'm not arguing, I'm just saying it comes down to a lawyer can write a deed to a piece of property, all the land on the west side. And all, on the east side, rather than if you divide a piece of land, you have to come up with a line in the middle somewhere if it's one contiguous piece. And then the lawyer has to be able to describe that piece. So that's why we're looking at using the survey that existed. Describe it. To set the remaining 28 acres.
Oh, you're saying the survey for the 9 acres?
Yeah, right. I mean, technically, right, but you say you have to have a survey for a subdivision, it doesn't have to include the whole parcel, right? That's the rule. So by already having one that's there, whether it meets the criteria or whatever, but the point is a lawyer could easily write a deed for everything on the west side. It's not like you're dividing, a solid parcel. You need to be able to describe that because that's what it comes down to, is how you describe it.
So this is a Mylar that's on file in Tesla already.
Been on file for a long time.
So we don't even necessarily have to have a Mylar like that.
So I guess the question is, do this entire list of things that are required for a subdivision, are they applicable or not, since it's already been filed?
Tough question.
That's the question. Unless there was merger language in these deeds when those 2 lots came under common ownership, I would say that these lots are still separate.
I would agree based on what I know. I mean, if there was no boundary line adjustment dissolving, you know, the line that was there, even though there's a road there, then I don't see why, I mean,
But it all came from one, the problem is it obviously came from one grand lot. And it's a 100-acre lot.
yeah.
And then it was broken in the past and things changed hands, and the question is, that was one farm 50 years ago.
Was it subdivided in the past?
A long time ago, it may have been.
But were these
So
three
lands-
pieces
all those lands were split off, right? And that was surveyed, obviously to represent that on that side of the road, where that came from.
Were these two pieces separately deeded? And at any point, in
At
time?
one point in time, I don't believe they were ever separately deeded. But
May I speak to the history of that a little bit? I think if you check the records, the land that was on the west side of the road, the 28 acres, was owned by Peter Schwartz at one time. The 9 acres at one time was owned by my father-in-law and part of our tract.
Yes.
And the 9 acres was conveyed to Peter Schwartz at some point in time. And that's when they became entirely owned by Peter. And then Peter conveyed that on to Sarah and her husband. So they did not come out of a common owner or at a common time. They came in from separate owners at separate times.
I wasn't disagreeing with that. I'm just saying in the ancient past, when it was a 100-acre lot, they were one. It was all one land at one time back at the formation of town. But since then, you're right. The Schwartz bought that piece separately.
Yeah.
When did they buy it?
It seems like these two lots are separate. The fact that they're owned by one particular owner, you know, it's two different lots, so why do we need a subdivision?
That's what I'm wondering. I mean, I own parcels next to each other that I bought separately. I never boundary line adjusted them, so they're all taxed together, but the lines are still there.
Absolutely.
So this, to me, I mean, this right here, right? It sounds like they're already subdivided.
Okay.
I mean, I can't see why they wouldn't be.
It looked like they're separate parcels to me.
You're saying this 9 acres was already measured out in 1994. Is that deed language right there to support the sort of what you were getting at is?
This one's from 1963. So this talks about it being approximately 100 acres. So this is just a description of the 100 acres.
But when it was all probably taken as part of it.
But there are subsequent deeds that speak of these properties separately.
Yes, I have, again, we stopped doing research on it because of other reasons, but yes, so that, like, Chris is right, that Schwartz did buy that set, actually, the. So it's,
Are they? My understanding, Tom, you correct me, is that if I own 2 lots, they're taxed separately. I mean, like they're 2 different lots. They're taxed separately.
the state rule is if they're contiguous, you only get one tax bill.
Right, that's how it works.
If they actually touch, the state rule is you only get one tax bill, whereas. If, let's say, you had different parcels in town that were set all over town, you would give them a separate tax bill. You know, the line still remains unless you have a deed that joins it.
So basically, this is going to be, I mean, basically is, anyway, my question is, was it surrogate tax, 2 tax bills or 1 tax bill? I think it answered the question.
So did Schwartz buy this land separately?
It was a separate purchase. Well,
It's the first I heard of
this.
this. So it's not a subdivision.
I don't think we can subdivide something and start subdividing.
Yeah.
That's it, we're running late.
Yeah, does anyone have anything else that we're missing here?
So it's already subdivided.
As far as I can tell.
I mean,
These are shorts, two shorts bought it separately, separate.
the only other thing I think we didn't really talk about, you know, Jason's concern about the septic,
That's like really an issue to us.
yeah, so my advice would be that, or, you know, someone, if you guys can sort that out, would be great, but there's, yeah, we have zero. You know, say over septic stuff, that's the state.
Matt, can that existing septic work if she builds a new house there, does she have to get a new system?
It depends on occupancy. And so you
And
have,
how many years has it been not used? Is it
Not
4
used.
years?
it's 4 years.
Okay.
And somebody could say that the 4 years, you know, connected, like you have a house there, but if it's a condemned home.
Yeah.
Then that 4 years, you know, if it's not, you might have somebody occupying it 3 years ago. Say, well, it's still a good septic system, but if it's a condemned home and all that stuff, there could be, and Jason could have. You know, something, even though it's might be a grandfathered system, I'd have to look into when it was supposedly the trailer was added to it. Because 2007 becomes the grandfather.
So what I'm getting at, should it be a condition to get a new septic when she builds it?
That's a health officer
Yeah.
issue.
We have to check the existing one.
You know, the health officer would have to say that, hey, it's either good or bad, whatever, and then Jason's complaint would go through the health officer saying, I don't think it meets any standard, even if it is grandfathered.
Right.
Right, so that should go, that normally that goes through the health officer, that's the start. Yeah.
I would entertain a motion that we close the hearing without rendering a decision based on the evidence and testimony that we received. Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. 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 Nay. Abstentions. Good.
Wow.
Yep.
I wish you had mentioned that to me a long time ago.
We did.
All right, which one is next here? Foster Fell or Sloshers? Foster Fell.
But he's not here tonight.
Yeah, Jeremy. He called me and told me that he couldn't. I if he wanted that.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. He called me last week. But I think he was calling me last week because this was last week. So.
It's called 7:30. We're hoping, previous 2375S, subdivision. So. Who's here for the Foster Fell? That's it, 2. Okay, so you're gonna testify?
I'm a neighbor.
Right, but I need to swear you in. Yep. Yeah, okay, so do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge and the pains and penalties of perjury? Okay. Anybody online here for Foster Fell?
Yes, I am. Philip Bertocci.
Okay.
We have the land on the north side of the Foster Fell property on the west side of Town Hill Road.
Okay, so I'm assuming, Phil, you're being sworn in as well?
I'm sure I'll be glad to be sworn in. I'm not
Just
sure.
in case you got something to say, might as well. All right. So the project description, it says, on my almost 10-acre lot and house, we are subdividing 2.1 acres on the road with 150 feet of frontage
a simple four-sided lot. That's the description. So, I know you can't see this, Bill. Did you want to come up, take a look? Because you can, if you want to
Small
select.
document, Canberra.
Oh, yeah, this is, there's document here. Oh, this is, I mean, it's, right, I mean.
Well, it's like we're talking.
All right, so we're going north right here.
Yep.
There's
This is
the
Jeremy's driveway.
the driveway.
And so this, if you come up the hill, just as you press before you get to Jeremy's driveway, you'll see a utility pole out in the field. On the left-hand side.
This is where they cleared those red lines.
Yeah, there was a bunch of pines there and stuff like that. Yeah.
What you're thinking of. The
Well, they were
route.
here, but this was here too at one time. Relatively.
Lines.
Wait, yeah, it was all here and cleared it off.
So wait, this is a house that is here?
No.
Oh, okay, that's what's
proposed.
okay.
So this is the septic plan,
That's his house.
right?
What is this?
So Jeremy has a septic system replacement for his current house. It has to come up here.
He's gonna pump up.
It has to. It's too wet down below. And then this
This
one,
is proposed.
so this is already approved. This is a state system that's already
Okay.
here. And. So this is a state system. It's already approved in there and whatnot. And this one would be the one to connect to this house
To
too.
pump up to this one.
Yeah.
And what's the capacity?
So this is a 3-bedroom house system size, and this is a 4-bedroom system size.
Is it a replacement?
You don't need replacement for mounds anymore. They just take it out and replace it in.
So where's the driveway?
It's right here. So the utility pole is the marker when you get up there. You'll see a utility pole out in the field. So the driveway would be, there's a flat spot where they used to drive out into.
Where's the Geneva boundary?
It's down here. There's the strip. That belongs down here. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there's the Geneva property up here that goes up to Vermont.
Where's the tree line? Where's?
Actually, the tree line's right about in here because there's a utility pole there.
So the feet, this is all.
Yeah, this is all the field part here.
I can hold it for you if you want.
Yeah, I'm just gonna spotlight right now.
This is the Geneva boundary.
Yep, and then the little space down here,
That's me.
that's you, yeah.
This is the Geneva
Yeah.
boundary.
Yeah.
This is turning into Fosterville.
Yep.
Right? There is a pole here along here too. There's one on the road.
There's one down here by the corner, there's one on the right over here that's actually on Bill Ronnie lives now.
property.
And there's one right across the road that sits right out in the little field.
Right, so how much clearing are they gonna be doing?
I think it's all cleared right now.
So he's putting a house where the clearing is.
Yeah.
He's not gonna be touching the elevations, which there's like an elevation here.
Well, this is actually right on.
So
It's got a little black spot right there that shows.
And
And then
where does Dr. Versace's house sit?
so this is, just so you know, this is where they cleared on the right hand side. And then there's a little driveway that goes to nothing right here over the little pond. I think there's a pond over there.
That's Ronnie's.
Right, well, Ronnie's house is down here, his driveway down here.
Right.
But yes, there's a little driveway that goes to nothing.
Oh, go somewhere. Right.
Yeah, but in the car, the chair always said.
Right. Right.
And
Versace's,
it's up here,
and then Mr. Versace's away up here, his house.
here, yes.
This is his.
This is the Geneva, no, this is the. Yes.
We have springs.
I've already calculated that.
Okay, who are you anyhow?
Oh, I'm Matt Reed. I do land surveying and septic design. I've already looked at your spring. Yeah, I went,
That's not it.
so your spring is down here. So this is 75 feet, this little strip, and then there's another. A little buffer, and then your spring is right. Well, it's right there. And the overshadowing for that, I don't have it on here. I did this for Ronnie. So we started out with Ronnie. I had the well up here and he did not want to have the overshadowing on his property. But
There's overshadowing.
that means you can't put a septic system so close to a well. So this is what this started right here. Your spring is much bigger. This is a 200 foot uphill, 100 foot. Your spring is 150 foot by 500 foot, so it goes almost up to Ronnie's house. And protection is around it. And that's actually due to the topography of the land, that's actually way down here. And so to meet the state requirement, I'm showing what is affected and your spring is not affected. See the little shadowing zones like here? And it goes way over there.
Spring.
No, it's 500 uphill, but it's only 150 downhill on each side. So that's way over here. And again, the only rule for that is a septic system can't go in that. Overshadow there. Well, and overshadowings can overshadow as long as the item in question doesn't ever come into play. Like Jeremy's spring comes right up here and his overshadowing, how the state wants us to design these comes up over here. So it's in the overshadow zone, but it's actually never touches the leach. Because they look at how marble.
Just the bound or
Those are bound.
Just bleach around it.
And this is just contingent as like if there's failure on the current?
Yes.
So this could operate for another 30 years.
So why is he doing this?
Well, that's part of the rules to subdivide is you have to show, but he had already done this. When they did the subdivision for the first time to break out the Foster Fell property from Geneva, the rule is you have to have a replacement area. Right, so it has to be proven out and permitted with wastewater state. Jeremy did that. They never did a design for it, they just did the.
So this is not built.
It only needs to if he's gonna replace this.
Right, but it's.
Might not have.
Yeah.
But what's happening because the state doesn't want you to sell,
Yeah.
10 feet around your house and then have no place to put a
No,
replacement.
I get
system.
it.
Yeah.
Again, so this might never happen, this is potential, but this will definitely happen because you wanna build that house.
Yeah. I've seen.
So my house, my spring is fine,
It's protected over here.
right, and you're not, potentially, where's the boundary line for this, right here?
No, it's actually down there at that bottom.
Was this already sold?
No, we can't. I don't sell it. We don't know. It's good. Maybe we'll be marketed. We don't know this one.
The house?
Not that I know.
So this, he's selling this as a lot
Yeah.
with a potential building site,
Yes,
but so this may never happen. Or
maybe it depends if somebody buys it.
right, but he's not. So if someone, I don't know how, 'cause I'm saying this wrong, so if he sells his property, right? How do they know that they have to do this?
Well, that's part attached to. So in the state rules, if you build a home, you have to meet the septic thing. So let's say.
So if they go back to, he's selling this, punches in the driveway, someone sticks a storage tank unit down here, and lives in it, it's just a minor.
No, as soon as they live it, that has to be compliant. As soon as they live there, and again, that's a health. So how it's handled in most towns is the health officer has to deal with, somebody reports it to the health officer, say, hey, there's somebody living in this life. Right, and they go up there and they say it doesn't meet the state septic requirements or whatever, and then they have to comply by looking into septic. It's more moving out of storage.
Even if they put a travel trailer in there like they did up at the top of Town Hill.
So the travel trailer thing, the only difference is like I don't know if you heard me before with this, it's when you take a camper, you put it on property. And it has to be registered, inspected, and it can't have skirting around it. It can't have a deck attached to it. It's gotta be, they don't have to take it off the property once a year, but technically you do, but you can't start skirting around the camper. Or build something or attach something to it that's attached to the ground. Yeah, it's over at that. It becomes, it's a home at that point, or a living unit. It's a dwelling unit.
It's not gonna be tiny, it's not gonna be a.
I don't know that, that's.
But if they put a tiny home there, they still have.
Yeah, any dwelling, they're gonna have to, unless it's movable, they have to have.
Now.
But why did he go through all this if he's just breaking off the property itself?
Part of it's the rule statement. There's a couple of rules in the zoning here, but outside of that, the state rule is if you break off a piece of property per state rules, you have to prove out his septic, which he already did here. So, but if you break this off, let's say he was just selling as an open field, then he wouldn't have needed the septic system. But since he wants to sell it as a permitted already building lot,
Right.
he needs an septic design, and that goes with the deeds, and there's actually wording in the deeds that says if you build a home, you gotta meet all state whatever requirements.
Right. So they can't decide, well, I don't want my house on Wooster Road, I want to put my house here.
They could, if they move the house more than 50 feet, they have to get an amendment to me because I have to change all the calculations for the pump and all that. But that's up to the town. But when it comes to zoning, right now, the house is designed to be right there. They move it, they have to come before the board, right?
Right, so I will, so if I see this as it is, and then a year from now, someone wants to be back here. I would find out.
However, it works in zoning, if they move the house up a lot, that's. how
You can't contact me anytime, in anything. Contact me anytime you have a question.
She's asking, what she's asking is if right now, you know, with the hypothetical house here, she's saying if somebody decides to move it down here.
And then you gotta go back to him, and you gotta.
First, right? Well, and then second, do they have to come in front of the town?
I don't think they're gonna come see us. They will still see video.
Care about his setbacks, which is.
I'm just looking at this piece of stereo, I mean, this all looks like a lot of space, you know, but it really isn't. That's the
Yeah,
profile.
and you're right, people can decide to do, people do all kinds of crazy things. I come up and say, hey, this is a good spot for a house, and they go put it in the swamp. And, you know, they do all kinds of crazy stuff, so it does happen.
Well,
People,
my thought is that. Yeah. Buy a house, you come up from New Jersey, you're gonna clear this and that view.
right, but this is already, this is the wood line down in here. This is all clear right now. This is all field, yeah, your wood line is, and the tree line is down here.
That years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the septic plan, because again, when I came up to this, I was like, oh crap, I gotta have the survey, and I was like, well, this is more complete than what the survey.
This 2 acre lot is at least 3/4 of the field right now anyway.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's already, the view is actually right here.
It's right behind this house.
Right, yeah, the tree lines like comes right through around like this up to here, because
I
it's
see,
clear.
you wouldn't think they'd want to punch that in there or more, well, they'd be too close to this.
Right, they could move it back here, and then we have to deal, of course, with redesign, you know.
Right, but it has to go you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, once they move this house 150 feet, right now the setback here is 50 feet. So we were pushing it back just because there's a lot of traffic in town. It's only gonna get, I mean, it's just gonna build up.
So is this gonna impact me on like my garage that I have to build? Yeah. No, think so. They get mad because now that I'm looking at a view that looks at my car going.
So like I said, Bonnie and I have had, because of your spring, Bonnie and I have had a bunch of looking at his. Ronnie has a house back and he has a small lot in front.
Right.
He bought that little lot, yes, clear cut it. And then we were looking at that because I was like, wanted to make sure, because that already has a permit for the septic system for that little lot.
It does, yeah. But he bought it.
And was looking at that as a reference to your spring, because he was talking about another spring site up here. In the front of that, and like, it doesn't mean any of the, you know, it wouldn't work with all the other septic systems.
Aren't you getting close to Mark? Zeros?
No, it's right in that little lot.
Oh,
There's-
all right, the lot's over here. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, right in that little lot, there's a spot that somebody could build a spring, but I was kind of thinking there was no way to do that because for two septic systems in the middle of there. Because those 500-foot springs are huge.
Yeah.
Huge isolation area around the spring.
Yeah, that's why I'm
Huge,
here.
yes, it is. Oh, no, they're huge. I mean, I deal with them every day on this stuff.
So he is out of my spring.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Whatever.
Your spring tunnel ends right here.
So theoretically, Ronnie can't build anything on that lot either.
That lot, the septic systems are pushed over enough and they're out of your overshadow. Kind of the state does this. I got a couple hours into, I did this and then I had to move downhill and then remap all of yours. Talk with Ronnie because he didn't want to have all the effects. No, you know, because he had concerns that it was gonna screw up his ability to build or whatever, you know what I mean, in these areas. Obviously overshadowing into town roads. If it doesn't matter.
Put a well or something.
I had one question, if I might.
Yep.
and, I can't hear everything you folks say. I was trying to determine just exactly where the proposed house site was. From what looking, I could see on the map that it looked to me that it was going to be a square area with frontage on Town Hill Road, south of the existing driveway that Jeremy Fosterfell has that goes down to his house. Is that right? I think that's right, but I
Yes.
want to confirm
So
that.
there's a telephone pole or a utility pole already out in the little field.
Yep.
The
yes,
house
that's-
will be within 30 feet of that utility pole.
Okay, I
So
know where
right
that
before
is.
you get to Jeremy's driveway on the left-hand side, there's a utility pole just out in the middle of nowhere.
That's right.
This is where the Google Street View.
Yeah. I had a pretty good idea where it was, but I just wanted to confirm.
Okay, yeah,
I'm from calling from Philadelphia, so it's,
yeah. I was trying to speak loud enough, so it was gonna get overcome, but it's probably covered up.
you're doing well. Thank you.
Yeah,
I mean, that's nothing to say anyhow,
okay.
except that it's gonna be posted as is, and that's.
Street view is possible. I don't know if you want.
I mean, do we need the street view? That or something like that?
I don't need it. Well, thank you, that you did that.
Whatever comes up, just ask. I'll get it done.
So again, the thing here is because of the timing and stuff, because you get the survey written out, this is got the septic overlays, they're the same map to me, but they have different things that I put on it. This may have everything we need to meet your criteria on this plan, so when I submit the survey, what I do is I take off, the overshadowing zones, I take off usually all the in-between topo lines. So it's a little clearer on the report survey, but I'd like to leave the topography lines there so you can see the lay of the field. And I still show the springs, the septic areas. Obviously, it's going to need an easement for this one, for this house. All the existing infrastructures here. Down the road, I have to go through a checklist.
It looks like it's,
Yeah, that looks like it's got.
Well, is there a problem with pulling out onto that, where that driveway is, you know how bad that hill is? I mean, where on the arc of the hill is that driveway coming out? Is it above or on, right across from the hayfield?
He's got to pull it up. It's still on pavement.
It's still on the pavement, yes, but is it? So if it's still on the pavement, then it's right at the arc of the hill.
Well, Jeremy's driveway, what is it, like 150 meters from his driveway?
Probably, so, yeah.
What's
It's probably like 200 meters below.
1201.
Right, so here, where's Jeremy's driveway?
right here.
Yeah, that's the top of the hill.
Yeah, that's that line
spot.
here.
So here they're going 60.
Yeah.
When they pass my house, they're going at least 70, then they get to the house and make a right hand turn. It's not my concern, but they usually, I have a stone wall in front of my house.
There's no street view on Town Hill Road.
There's,
Well, I could do satellite.
give me the satellite, please, and then we'll look at that real quick, just so we can maybe see a little bit of the field and stuff that you're talking about. Go through this list. Yep, that's very good. So this is. That's the utility, the telephone pole's like right there. The utility line comes across the road and it's like right here.
Red down the house.
No, so that's just,
Google counts as the address.
that's where Google says Jeremy lives. The septic systems go right here. And then that house, again, that utility poles, you can see the shadow of it's right here. So that would go here and you can see the field still that's down to your
location here. The driveway would be, it comes up to the top, right there.
It used to, I think there must have been a barn or something out of that field, maybe in the ancient past. And that's why it's a flat spot like that. Just suspicious that there was must have been something. Somebody might have had an barn or something.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about roads, but I mean. It's,
Be the worst one on town.
right, exactly.
There is a slope, requirement, and I'm not 100% sure it's followed all of, that's the real concern is when people have a driveway that like basically blues runs you down into the road.
Oh, I don't think it.
No, this was flat. That's why I think there was a barn. You would remember ancient times.
It's fully flat. That's it. I mean, people fly, so it's
It's a good thing that there's a good line of sight there.
very pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a big deal.
Yeah, actually, the worst line of sight is here.
Yes.
It's actually worse when you get right to the end of the asphalt. Right there, it's actually the pothole there is terrible too. Yeah, that occupies the spot.
So this is not going to require any more grading or.
I don't think it should that much.
We're
Obviously,
not worried about erosion coming down into the.
no, I mean, if they stay within that site area to do whatever they're gonna build there, I mean, there's ledge underneath that, so they're pretty much, it's gonna be a slab on grade, so they might have to bring, material in to level it to be good base material to put on top of material that's there, but they do any more than whatever cubic feet of fill, they would have to get a permit, anything to fill to move the place, but
Probably silt fences.
silt fence, it's all part of the whatever.
Right, because of the slope, we might have to do the silt fence because of the slope.
Just anytime you disturb more than whatever square feet or whatever the rule is that they have silt fence. Play the game, so.
Thank you.
So we'll go to the map, registered, land surveyor, civil engineer, architect. Buildings, wood areas, roads, water courses, wetlands, existing foundation.
So I'm gonna add the forest.
I get, I'll do it.
Because again, this one has to put the dots.
Yeah, got all that stuff. Prime and secondary natural resources, prime state water, soils. I always forget this town, prime. All parcels immediately adjacent, we got all of them, right?
Yeah.
On the outside, zoning district boundary now, location and size of any existing sewers and water mains, individual and community sewage disposal system, wells, culverts and drains. We've got the lot lines, the access location, we've got proposed lot lines, location of water, wastewater utilities, structures and their uses. Streets, curbs, sidewalks, all that stuff. The vicinity map, but not over 400 feet, that's that one. Right?
Is there a limit on the size of the house?
Well, this particular design is for 3-bedroom, but zoning, when it comes to when you have to get your building permit is whatever it is from zoning. So that's, I think we have a height. No more than, is it 40? No, 35, I think it's 35. 40? Okay, so, yeah, there's some requirements of that, but that's, and setbacks. There's building setbacks, that's why this one, I would put it back there anyway, but I made sure that it's off the road to meet future setbacks, and as we know, my grandparents' house is one of them, they didn't have setbacks then, and we should have just bulldozed it. They solved it. So.
All right, we got the name and address of the owner, date, true north, arrow and scale, total acreage of the subdivision in each lot, they're numbered. Yeah, we don't need a construction sequence or time schedule. It does talk about a schedule for each phase of the subdivision. I guess we're looking at this in isolation as like a subdivision, not one of like.
Right, you're not doing. Not that I know.
It's such an odd, yeah, I know, some,
Well,
2 years down the road, they may decide, okay, I'm gonna do this.
well, that's where you get into something called the master plan.
Right,
So if somebody's gonna take 20 acres and turn it into 20 lots, you would want a master plan on how they're going to approach that. They do their 9 lots every 10 years or whatever.
These rules are designed around that type of a subject or a subdivision. 90% of our subdivisions.
Oh, I know, I understand, but he's reading them off, so we're.
all right, I guess I'd say if anybody sees anything missing, or I can read the super headings and skip the. Yep. I don't see anything missing.
Okay, when I do turn in the survey and if you made the notes, I'll add the tree line and the prime angs. And I'll be obviously removing this extraneous stuff from the survey that doesn't belong.
Right, because you got powers, septic, water.
Yeah.
Driveways, buildings, you know.
It's all with the overhead utility stuff.
But if you're punching in a well and you're going into existing.
That's gonna have a well. I still design springs, but I wouldn't find that there's a decent water source there to put in a spring that would be capable of meeting requirements of home today. That doesn't affect your aquifer either. Yours is mostly less than 20 feet of water. Usually a well is coming from much deeper than that, so it's a separate water supply. I don't know if it's hard water down here.
Maybe be hard water. You know, I know in several, these someone's got hard.
Yeah.
I don't, so.
Why does that make a difference?
Well, no, it's a proof of where the water's coming from. Like if you don't have hard water in your spring and there's hard waters in the wells around there, that means there's probably no connection of that water whatsoever. And usually wells have much more hard water than springs, except for my parents' place in Hyde Park. We had hard water spring, which is a rare.
Ours is extremely hard.
Yeah.
And on the spring.
So, yeah, if you have clean water out there, who knows how it's connected, how it's connected underwater. But yours is coming from up above it somewhere.
It's pretty hard. It's not as bad as up the hill, but it does blow through a heating system every 10 to 15 years.
Anybody's got any other questions?
So Steve.
This subdivision and approve it.
Second that.
You got that, huh?
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions. Okay. All right. Oh, yeah.
How's that? Subdivided subdivision.
So there's another one.
Sarah Slosher.
There's
This is our original.
oh, that's the original one. Oh, I
This is
thought
our
that one
first.
Yeah. Three on
The 2 lots subdivision. Already subdivided.
All right, so. 8 o'clock on that one. And then we're 7:58 or whatever, and then so we're opening 2376C. At 8 o'clock. We're Sarah Slaughter, this is conditional use. Project description is 3 1-room cabins and built off of shelters and 1 tent site. So anybody that's speaking tonight, I just need to swear you in. So do you swear that the testimony you will give is the truth and the best of your knowledge and the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes.
Yes? Yes. Yes. Just the two of you. Anybody on Zoom?
Yes.
Thank you.
My husband is not like your leadership.
Yeah, go get
I think everybody out there is waiting, so it'd probably be a good idea to get them all. I was gonna go by my meeting. Those ones in my. Sorry.
Like, oh, everybody here.
Not related to that.
We were just kind of carrying on a couch out, but it's again.
So, yeah.
So dedicated. No, I like to hear it. I think it's my next very long. Thank you.
We have to sign. Go off the road. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, well, it's here. Yeah, it's good. We can say all that. What's been on configuration? This building with a nice steep roof. Yeah. Well, I think it's got four. Goes in.
Good enough, though, huh?
Yeah. I landed on my tool belt. There's stuff I think.
Where do you like? Oh, were you?
Yeah. The kind of was he was there. So,
Stick cleanup place. So this log and. It's conditional. It's not like. Have like an X on it. You can't.
Oh,
And show. So it's permitted village core, so it's when you have to be here, but.
oh, right, okay.
Rural residential is conditional.
Okay.
Oh, you don't have 36. 51 where it talks about the. Some of the intent, yeah. I agree. All right, I swore people in, before a bunch of people showed up, so I will do it again in case I missed anybody. Anybody that just came in plan on testifying, or providing any comment or evidence or anything. All right, so do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge of the pains and penalties of perjury? Okay. All right, we can start, I don't know, Bob or Sarah, you want to just, I mean, I read the description, it's a three one-room cabins, all built off-grid shelters and 1 tent site. So that's what it says on here, so I don't know if you want to just provide any additional description or let people ask questions.
But we don't think so.
I mean, people could ask questions, or I could talk first. I don't know what the format is.
It's up to you. I mean, if you just want to elaborate on that, or if you think that sums it up enough that we can.
I'm happy to elaborate. It's happens, but I've been on the farm purchase when we bought the land some years ago. It was Russell Martin's. We just had it moved down further to the woods, so the cabins would be for 2 people each that are off grid, and they wouldn't be occupied all the time. Or this will be what I know. They wouldn't be all full at once, like all 3, or they wouldn't be occupied every night consecutively or anything like that. They were permitted in the ones that Bob and Kyle built over the years, and they're excluded under the current use program. They've been excluded. Pretty much they've been storage, or over the summers we've had sporadic help on the farm, stay in the cabin out there. They're out of sight from the road and other houses. We have a no pet policy. It really wouldn't be any different than it has ever been on our farm. We do have toilets from insurance that get serviced regularly, and a hot hand washing area is set up. We do have like policy in place, so people that they have to sign and to know they've read what it's the policies. They're not just coming to a place with power or whatever. And I have a list of them if anybody's interested, but I'm there, would be there to meet and greet. There's no really self check-in or acceptance, auto accept or anything like that without going over all the terms. It's our home and business too. We're also insured. We've got plenty of insurance to have campers. We have plenty of parking, but people wouldn't be driving back through the field. I actually did kind of do this Google Earth map, so I have where the cabins are, which I can show people on the tent site.
I think we've got the document, Karen, we can put it up.
Okay. You know, there's a lot of rules I have given out that people will have to sign off on, but one of them is that they don't bring firewood in from other places. We would provide that and have some small fire pit, and we also have a solo fire pit. I can point, but I think I did that successfully.
Or if you want to be on the side.
So our house is here. Yeah, please. And the cabins are here. Cabin, well, I just said cabin 3, cabin 1, cabin 2. Yeah. And a tent site is right up here by our little pond.
So these are cabins, you said they're currently on the property, they had been built some time ago.
Yeah, over many years.
There's three cabins. And then there's one tent site down by the road. And then there's a possible one up in the woods there by the cabins.
Right.
So there's already the one tent site by the road. And the three cabins, and then the only thing that's really not there already is it's the thing where it says possible tent site too.
Right.
Okay.
We really enjoy bringing guests to our farm for events and offer one of a kind experiences. The farm venue has been a gathering place. We host a lot of local and club meetings, nonprofit groups. We'll get along with other schools, educational field trips, Girl Scout troops, fundraisers. We have weekly wellness programs in the summer and different retreats to organizations that we just offer and give our venue to. Children that come collect eggs, harvest fruits and veggies, have maple syrup and pancakes in the sugar house. In the past 2 years, we've donated over $3,000 to local nonprofits like Wolcott Ballet, Meals on Wheels, Marina Howard Center, just from people like who have left donations who, been able to be on the farm. Yes, to our events, really enjoy unplugging and letting nature and the farm recharge them. Families have told us they've talked many times about their experiences and good times on the farm and how it has brought their family more bonded and together. So visiting farms has a profound impact in many ways. Giving people real, authentic, memorable experiences, helping connect to the land and how food is grown and produced, is what local people, especially during COVID, but out-of-state guests seem to be craving. Agritourism is gaining as a real viable industry in Vermont. Being a destination farm deepens relationships with the community, builds greater interest in all the area has to offer. Opens additional ways for people to visit the farm, have fun, fun, and meet the interaction from the greater community. We'll be collaborating. We've already talked with the people who do the Memorial Rail Trail, so they'll be able to rent bikes and get people to go down to the rail trail and get e-bikes so they can get up. They go. The state will also benefit because we would pay the moves tax. We had a horrible wake-up call when somebody about having an accident, and doing more of this is going to be a way that we can try and slow down from the intensive labor of veggie production and growing on acres, and would like to occasionally rent these cabins for 1 or 2 nights during the warmer months. That would be something else. They wouldn't be long term. We wouldn't accept anyone from more than 2 nights. Just so we have time to give that probably the best. And I have a lot of things that people would have to like, but one thing is they bring their own bedding, which is not things like that. So yeah, we're really busy on the farm doing lots of things. So it's not like we want to be hosting all the time either. So we're really choosing when and with who. It wouldn't be anything different than really what it has been.
With real small cans.
Yeah, they're just one room. Right.
Yeah.
So we call it the lamp thing.
A little bit bigger, but
What Russell's was. Because this might be.
so when we purchased the 10 acres, from Chevron, there was a couple, there was numerous. There was an outhouse and a shed and a cabin that Russell had built. And then we took that and we moved it down to the edge of the woods. And kind of since then, the woods have kind of grown in around that cabin. And there was one that Kyle and I had built years ago. It was a
Over many
high
years.
school project that's probably like a 12 by 14.
I didn't look at that big.
No,
Just that's the
that's,
the bigger one.
but
So will you be running these out through HipCamp?
Yeah, that's what.
Does HipCamp dictate? Can they dictate criteria? Can they force you to do more than you want to do? Is there a contract you have to
Oh,
sign? up?
gosh, no.
Do they require signage? Advertising of any kind on the road?
Not HipCamp, but our own personal, yeah. No,
no.
Okay. I just don't really think about HipCamp, but you
Yeah.
did mention that you were gonna be going through them.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think the change of use is that these are cabins that, you know, I'm your friend, or maybe I'm coming to do some work for you guys, and you're like, yeah, you can, you know, it's July, you know, stay in the cabin if you want, versus now the potential intention is a very part-time, like, I could pay to come and stay at your farm.
The farm stay experience, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Would I pay to do farm work as well? This, yeah, sure. They're trying to expand the business idea for you. Maybe somebody perhaps has lived a city type.
Right, one
Like-
will come and think garlic and.
Yeah, they wanna know what it's like, yeah.
We have done that from time to time. There's bookers that we come by and we offer up a 2 week. You know, they would be able to stay for a couple of weeks. and then-
What is that farming?
Building workers on organic.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm thinking more, I'm a lawyer who's lived in Baltimore my whole life, and I just wanna get out of the city and know what it's like to.
Yeah, I mean, people that have come to just other different events on our farm that go into 10 p.m. have like, oh my gosh, I've never seen so many scrubbers that people in the city don't get to experience.
We're very lucky there.
I think that people are looking for a quiet state or not, you know, we're certainly not, you know, gonna encourage, you know, like, you know, party type of atmosphere at all.
Not at
You know,
all.
it's like,
Yeah, I mean,
So what's the relationship with the realtor?
yes, no relationship,
Oh,
we just feel.
Okay. So it's just be, they have bikes, go for a ride. It's not like there's gonna be a sign saying at the bottom of Town Hill saying,
It's just me, like, with
come
people.
off the ground trail and come up and say.
No, and for us being able to.
we do
say
partner with,
things.
you know, we have partnered with, like,
Rail trail. Oh, the backwards.
like tours and things like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, just when I came up and had lunch.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go through the just the standards here and that may open up, you know, some thoughts, questions for people. All right, so the first one, is capacity of existing or planned community facilities or services. Basically saying, is this conditional use change going to impact the existing services that are there? I mean, so specifically, they're talking about school capacity, water and sewer capacity, emergency services, recreation, that kind of stuff. The only thing that I can think would be possible emergency services if somebody got hurt, but you know, having a couple people stay isn't really gonna adversely affect.
That would be irrelevant.
Right, so unless I'm missing something, I don't really see any adverse impact on services. The next one is the pattern and use of development in the area affected. So this one is basically talking about the design, location, scale, and intensity of the proposed development. And does it fit in with like what's going on there already?
Well, we feel it does. I mean, we have it on the edge of the field, but they're also tucked back a little bit into the woods too, so that they're pretty unobtrusive as far as seeing, you know,
any cabins. I mean, most of this cabin is painted red and it's kind of right on, you know, in the corner of the edge of the woods there.
Yeah, this I think was looking at like, if you were gonna build like a roller rink there, you know,
Build a what?
a roller, like a roller skating rink.
Oh,
Like, you know, obviously if it's like a residential house or things like that are kind of already expected or, you know, happen in that area, this is looking at. I don't know if anybody has any other comments about whether they think this fits in with the character of the neighborhood or not.
I'd like to know what you do about fire.
We'll get to that.
about septic.
We're gonna get to that too. So that was just the development. Okay, so traffic on the roads and highways in the vicinity. We'll sort of come back to that, but it sounds like you're going to limit the amount of guests, and the amount of time that they stay.
Yes,
Okay, so what I heard you say is that the maximum stay of 2 nights and then no more than a certain amount of people. I'm just gonna try to like, you know, get through this thing without belaboring it. It's not gonna make a ton more traffic on the road.
no,
All right, the bylaws now in effect, renewable energy resources, you're not affecting those. So that's pretty much it. So the rest of it, are water and air quality. Okay, so now we can sort of, if anybody, like, so fire. The last one of these we had, what was that? It was similar, it was like campsites. What really made, the neighbors, comfortable and the development review board had them do was have a very specific list of the rules, right? You know, like what time is quiet time, fires, are they allowed, music, you know, people goofing around shining big flashlights, like, you know, where is the waste gonna go? Is it gonna be animal proof, septic, that kind of thing? The last applicant was very specific on, you know, explaining all those things, so.
yeah, I do have this.
Months of operation, you know, like weekends, that, you know, that kind of thing. Sounds like you have something drafted.
Definitely, I mean, I can read it if you want, or send it, or
Well,
do you want me to read you?
usually when we do the conditional, like that goes into the. If, you know, if there is an approval, it's like based on, yeah, we're gonna do all this stuff, you know. like-
Okay, yeah,
So I take it that Wolcott's going to be responsible, the fire department, if there's a fire in those woods or something gets out of control?
No more than they would be on any other property. I believe Wolcott Fire Department would go with any fire in town.
Yeah, my daughter was on it. I'm just asking if
I mean,
that's the way
to
it's
be-
gonna be handled.
And we would, we could supply, I mean, we have solar, solo. What do you call
oh, solo pit,
it? Solo.
but yeah,
pits.
it's good, I just
So,
to my list, which isn't on here. But we would put an extinguisher in each, but there's no like,
Yeah, we don't get down to the details of that kind of stuff.
okay,
We're just like kind of concerned with like, you know. What months you open, what days, what hours, quiet time, that kind of thing.
yeah, so it would be like May through October or mid-October, mid-May, it just really is weather depending, in. So that, if there's no generators, no amplified music for the camping and, you know, 10 PM until 8 AM, but we wouldn't take anybody with noise or air.
So can we just, let's get specific here, like month, let's just pick some dates so Tom can write the stuff down.
Okay, so let's say May through October.
I can't hear you.
May through October.
May 1st through October 31st.
Sure, it might not be that long, but if you need to write down, that sounds good.
It's okay. It's okay if it's longer.
Okay,
You don't have to be specific to days.
okay.
And then how about, maximum vehicles or people, how about maximum people at any given, like on any day?
Well, if.
Just, yes, I'm not talking about people working there or whatever, it was just
Right.
pertaining to this.
If it was 3 cabins for 2 and the tent site then it could be up to 8.
Okay, so up to 8 people.
Do we really want to follow everything, or should we maybe take a list later? I don't know what the process is, but you quantify it one way and it changes the next week.
And you could change, I mean, I don't see why you couldn't change it.
So what's the purpose of the list?
Just so like the neighbors walk out here comfortable knowing that like, you know, nobody's gonna be running a generator at 3 o'clock in the morning.
And, exactly. Sort of some of the parameters that we're writing down are attached to a potential approval.
Just so.
But they seem very exact to me, where you might get something right away, the other.
Oh, and
These are the
yeah, and it can be amended, I mean, it's not like you know, you have to like absolutely.
Yeah, I think the last, like Max is saying, is like the last round of this that we did for somebody, we encourage them to just like sort of pick up like a larger scale, you know, like months, you know, May through the end of October. Like, just say 7 days a week, just so it just covers you basically, and maybe you only have intention of like, yeah, just Fridays and Saturdays.
If they were to change it, can they change it? They have to come back in here.
I think it might just go see Tom. Mine would change.
No, this is your decision.
If you can't change it, then we should, I would say, make it as general as possible without putting a number on everything.
Yeah,
7 days a week and, you know.
so we've got the days, 7 days a week.
You have a question on that?
Oh, sorry, it got small there.
Oh, sorry.
Matt,
Yes.
go ahead.
No, we own the property just south. We actually just purchased it there last year from, the one question we had is, what's the liability, if, you know, we have a pond right adjacent to their property right now, somebody comes walking around in the middle of the night and decides to take a swim and, you know, God forbid something happens. What's the liability on that?
I can't answer that. I'm not an attorney.
So that, okay, I mean, that's mainly my concern is people staying where they're at.
Me too.
Is there a, we don't need to know, is there an insurance policy? Like a homeowner's insurance policy will cover a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, we actually do have a farm policy that is put into that, but yeah, speaking to that, I would love to meet you at some point, Mr. Germain, but that brings up a good point, and I would like to maybe put some boundary line signs, you know, so that might say, you know, Sandywood Farm ends here, don't go any further.
Right,
And
this is in our ponds.
yeah, and a few locations, so I'd be happy to do that, you know, on the border there, as well as at the bottom by our pass I was talking with these.
So Sarah, would you be willing to add that to the list of conditions?
Yeah.
All right, so let's do this. How many signs?
Well, I think one, well, I know
The pond is.
talking
Could
about
be,
the five.
could be 3, I don't know, the pond is not good.
These are the patches.
Should we just say something?
Yes, clearly, Mark.
Clearly, okay, so just put signs up clearly letting people know where it's most likely that they're gonna wander into somebody else's property.
There's a tree line.
How about quiet hours from when to when?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much always quiet, but I'll put it in the thing like 10 PM to 8 AM.
Okay,
But
10 PM to 8 AM. Fires,
we have a few of these like, self-contained fire rings.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's, and we'll provide the wood, so that is another thing in the,
instead,
Sure.
no generators.
no, gosh, no. We don't-
Yeah, one of the other things that came up, the other one was when people are camping, like tent camping, like with their exterior lighting. The discussion came up on like a limitation on the lumens that the people are like shining out. I don't really want to get too far into the weeds with that, but just, that was a concern. The neighbors are like, oh, if somebody's playing with one of those bright flashlights, you know, when they're doing the camping thing, so.
There would be a description of what not to, what they would be able to do. And then we can make sure that people are aware of that. I guess it would be the thing to do. I mean, there's no lights, you know. We would probably maybe supply, you know, some solar, you know, zero lanterns or.
Motion lights too, so
Yeah.
we have them already there because they're just there. We have some solar motion lights that come.
How about waste disposal,
Yeah, we have.
organic, non-compostable stuff?
Well, so there would be pack in, pack out, but as far as like,
Oh, so they're responsible, so there's gonna be no disposal service for the cabin.
no, pack in, pack out, for
Okay.
sure. And like I said, there's portalets on the farm in the summer and we would get another one closer to the cabin.
All right, so.
Well, kind of, we can get it there or not.
Okay, so there's gonna be someone said an outhouse, a porta potty for the cabins. Yes, one shared or two?
No, probably a couple.
Two.
Okay. And then, I think that was, I'm trying to remember what else was on the list. That's about all I can remember.
From someone else that was asking for me to be allowed.
They did a similar thing to this, and these were like the list of, you know.
Okay.
I can give you that.
For 10 cents.
Part of the neighbor in that they're set up, and the neighborhood was also concerned about, and they had much more, I don't know how many sites it was, but the neighborhood was concerned about traffic, and I can't remember if the conversation about. Was it a private road, was it a town road, all of that?
It started with either 12 or 20 sites.
And it was like 3, right?
Yeah, they pared it way down because it turns out the state got involved with it. With
Yeah.
wastewater.
Because of how many people they were proposing to put on that campsite. And I think they were forced to put in a septic because of it. Did they put in a septic?
Oh, it was for 10 cents?
It's was.
They were more or less, basically they pared the sites down to be accommodated to the capacity of a certain number of portlets, but it sounds like these guys already have that in place, and the traffic thing was more, I believe it was like a dead end situation, where obviously Town Hill is.
And all the neighbors were like really close, so like from their kitchen window, they could like see part of the
They were
parcel.
proposing a year-round campsite.
Yes,
And so I think they cut out winter. They eliminate winter because of the rescue issue, because they were proposing to access the catamounts.
right, the cabin
So
trails.
these people are gonna leave their campsite and go to the catamounts. God knows where, maybe never be seen again. So I think that's why they made themselves into just a summer. I'm not sure. I don't think they were allowed to go winter.
Yeah, I think it was the first scenario where we had like this, and so you guys are. This is number 2, but it's certainly not apples to apples situation. It seems very pared down, and very much simpler.
So to the best of my recollection, those were the things that came up last time. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to add?
I do.
Sure.
So first, I just want to say thank you for sending this list because we didn't get one for the last project that we did. So we were kind of wondering on what was happening. And my concern is that it started out as, this isn't got anything to do with what you're doing now, but it was a small hemp farm that turned into an apartment and home when it was supposed to be agriculture. So my concern is that how big can this get, once you start, because based on the projects that have been happening there, they were small, they turned out big. Our property value already is, we can't even go outside for 5 months, look that direction. Our whole house is passive solar on that side, every window. That's how it was designed, and the glare from those 2 roofs are so bad. And I know I can't do anything about that now, but I worry, what else could happen? How many more sites can there be? And as much as you can control people, you can't. We worry about someone coming over and our place gets deep. And kids and people just, you're camping and you're drinking, and things can happen wherever you are. It is a concern. And then I don't understand why it says 3 lean-tos and 1 tent site, but you got 2 tent sites. And are you adding 3 new lean-tos, or this is the site you already have?
It's the street cabin.
Okay, because it's a.
Yeah, I don't know if what you're looking at, it might be different, but the one on the application says 3, 1.
Yeah, 3 shelters
and
and
one.
1 tent site, but there's 2 tent sites. And I just worry how much bigger can it get, you know, it's.
Well, without more conditional, another conditional use review, not.
Pardon?
Without another conditional use review, you can't get bigger. Meaning if they said, hey, we want to put 5 more of these things in here, we'd all come back here and then the question would come up again, does this fit in with the character of the neighborhood?
It feels like a campsite. It's like-
Well, and that's what I'm saying, so that would, you know, like you're saying, if it grew a lot larger, that's when it may come into question, does it fit in with the neighborhood, the character of the neighborhood?
And then I can understand there was 2 things on here. One was for subdivision review, and then the other was for the camp. I didn't really understand what those 2 things were. What is the subdivision?
Subdivision?
It says
So
here
like the
it goes.
application is like subdivision permit, probably. But it was
Subdivision before us. And so that's what that was.
We had to do subdivision, and this is conditional. A use. Conditional use.
Two subdivisions, right? Yeah. But this is gonna be a for commercial development, right?
What is
The tenting,
That is what we're looking at.
the commercial, it's still like
Conditional.
commercial. It's
Commercial.
it's commercial,
Oh.
and we should go from there.
I can't predict what's gonna, you know, all I can tell you is that when we do conditional review, we do it for what the applicant, you know, presents to us. If they decide they want to do more, then they have to, you know, submit another application.
We're not looking to get any bigger.
What is your vision? I'm looking like, well, is your vision just exactly that, or is it gonna, not that you're gonna tell me, hey, what are you gonna do this or the other? But what is your vision? Is it just those few, or are you gonna add more?
We can't predict the future.
I mean, I know, but we're not planning to.
I don't plan on it.
It's just they're there. We're not planning to build any more
We're just asking
cabins.
for
These
something.
cabins have just been on the farm for years.
If we would say it's not gonna be any bigger, but you know.
So would that be part of the conditions of having it, is that it doesn't get any bigger?
That's sort of implicit because the application states 3 cabins in 1 tent. So if there's anything more than that, they have to file an application.
And that's part of our language of encouraging to say, okay, think of the biggest scope of months that you want to do it. Think of, even though it might be 2 days a week, just say, you know, just get in there 7 days a week to sort of have some, you know, sort of have that bigger picture conversation right now.
And how does this affect all the properties as far as values? Nothing would change because these cabins have been.
I'm not a property assessor or in real estate, but I wouldn't, it's just a guess of somebody who's not in real estate, but I don't think it's gonna bring property values down. So that's just continue.
I think economic, to me, it represents economic growth in a town that needs a bigger tax base and so, you know, as part of tourism coming into town. People on the rail trail, bicycling, whatever. You know, I do think it revives, helps the town economic value and therefore reducing taxes eventually.
I mean, people come and they're not just gonna spend money, you know, spending a night or 2 at the cabins, they're gonna go out, go to the Wolcott store, they can go to the Casper store, they're gonna go all around and spend a lot more money than they're gonna spend for a night stay at the cabin or something like that. And the state also gives the rooms tax, it's not like it's the void, it's like they're getting money too. So I think that it seems like it's a good thing for the town. Good thing, that. Better than gravel pit, I think, it's like, something that's, tourism is a big thing in the state of Vermont. To encourage that is a win.
And I just add, as well as food production, right? We're all gonna need lots of food in the future, and you're talking about local organic food production, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And,
Being able to come over and fix, make your dinner, have it, get it from the farm stand, get plates from the chicken coop, like people love that.
And sometimes if you provide a map, and then this is my cabins, and the boundaries are clearly marked. And when the customers come to the map, they know where the private property is to be, you know what I'm saying? The boundaries are clearly marked and you handle them. You can't, powers off at certain time, noise is ending, and here's the map of where you are, and this is clearly mapped boundaries, and it's the private property. And I have to practice understand. Yeah.
I mean, as far as pennies, they're not gonna call it, also the electric fence to get to your pond. Maybe they would, but you cross, you step through an electric fence and try to get into the pond. Pretty clearly marked. We've had people do it before.
Yeah.
Well, it's,
We've got them in our area.
sure enough.
There will be cars will be gates going through and like our horse out in the middle of the night, so we've dealt with this.
But I like your idea. Having that.
So I'm gonna suppose this your hearing along here, does anyone have anything else that's pertinent to the application that we missed?
We do quiet hour.
10 p.m. to 8 a.m. 10 p.m. to 8 o'clock a.m.
Okay.
All right, I entertain a motion to approve the conditional use application with two conditions listed that Tom has noted.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, if this isn't lived up to, we go to. Oh, the white one in the corner.
We are not at
Foresters.
yeah, we're quasi judicial board, we don't.
Take it. When things go wrong.
That's, yeah, that is Tom.
Okay, Tom.
I didn't hear you, what do you?
Sorry, so all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Nays, abstentions, okay. Now we can close the hearing at 8:43, so yeah, Tom, I think she's just concerned that if people aren't following the rules there, that you're the one that she would come to talk to about enforcing zoning.
Yeah, oh, zoning.
Well, this is kind of, but that would be fine for you.
People out of Matt's farm,
Yeah, it's trespassers would be.
I think that Tom would be more if they build 3 more cabins, right, without conditional use, that's Tom.
Okay, so what choices do we have?
If
For
you
what?
have a problem with
If
the
there's a
guests,
problem,
if there's a problem with the guests, the first people you want to see is Bob and Sarah.
Since, yeah, they're the business owners.
and then?
They'll take care of the problems.
Do we-
Well, you can come to us anytime and,
We got
Well, it depends on what the problem is. If somebody's trespassing, you might call the police. If it's fire, you call the fire department. I mean, I can't possibly, think of all the permutations of things that people could be doing they're not supposed to be doing, but
Well, with all the murders and the stabbings and shootings, yeah, I'm a little concerned. Children, you know, it's.
And I guess my advice would be law enforcement.
But you already passed the journey. Yes, so you're done. You can't say you're gonna start with anything else. Thank you for your service.